Welcome to the program, guys. I appreciate you being here. A couple things I got to get off my chest and you rant about before I rant during the entirety of this video. I'm going to be doing so much more content on Rumble. I'm going to start streaming more game nights. My hobby when I relax is gaming. And I like to, when we do a live stream, a lot of times you guys just talk in the chat about the world and life while I'm sitting here and reading chat, and it's kind of a great hangout. So it's less about me, I guess, playing a game than more about having a good chat room where guys can just hang out. And the nice thing about me gaming is I can put it up on Rumble and it doesn't become copyrighted or anything like that. So I'm going to be doing more of that. So expect, probably 2 or 3 nights, maybe even 4 nights a week, I might be doing gaming when I have the free time. Number 2, I am doing everything I can to continue my exodus from YouTube. I know so many people say, oh, I can only get YouTube, and YouTube hates me. I am losing subscriptions. I'm not getting any new people watching my content. And normally I'd say that's fine. But they're demonetizing me. They're still showing ads on everything to people. And so YouTube is making money off of me while not paying me any money. And it's, well, you can put the message out. Look, the message is out there. Everybody knows about red pill content, men's content, and all the craziness. I'm not needed on YouTube anymore. Plenty of other people to watch over there. So I'm continuing my exodus. So many of you on YouTube, if you come over to Rumble on the Odd Man Out channel, because that's my channel here on Rumble, if you see Odd Man Out and you say, my gosh, there's 10 to 1 or 5 to 1 videos over here. I haven't seen any of this on YouTube. YouTube sucks, and I'm tired of it. And at a certain point, I have to say, you know what? People know my content. If they can come find me if they want it bad enough. And it's not that I don't appreciate the YouTube viewers. It's just I'm so tired of YouTube. I did a video with Andrew Wilson. I didn't use any cursed language. I didn't say anything that bad. And YouTube demonetized it for hate speech. And the section that they were critical of was us talking about feminism, which bleeds into today's topic, which is why I'm talking about this. So if I can't even talk about feminism without YouTube giving me flack, I'm tired of having my speech just so censored. I'm just done with it. I'm just so done with it. So you guys can watch, I don't know, fail videos and kitten videos for all I care. I'm so frustrated. And part of the feminism issue is conservative women. When I did the interview with Andrew Wilson, we talked about, these conservative women, they're feminists too. They want I'm an empowered woman. I can do whatever I want. And a good man will appreciate me for who I am. Men can't have opinions about us. Men can't have standards. Men are hurting women. Men are hurting the Republican Party. Men are hurting conservatism because they won't do as we say. Megyn Kelly is a conservative podcaster, YouTuber. She used to be on, I guess, mainstream TV as well. And she just comes right out and is like, we can do it all, ladies. And if the men don't like what we're doing, well, I guess they're going to have a sad, lonely life. Gee, who does that sound like? Sounds like Red Pill. Sounds like us men saying, well, we've told you what we want. And if you're not going to do what we want, we're just going to leave you. You can be by yourself the rest of your life. And then conservative Megyn Kelly's like, well, ladies, do whatever you want. And if the men don't like it, guess they'll be alone. She did an interview with Anna Kasparian, who's a leftist or maybe not a leftist. That's not accurate. She's someone on the left that is slowly drifting to the right as the left continues their spiral into insanity. But when you have Megyn Kelly and Anna Kasparian going, you're right. I totally agree. You're right. You got a problem with conservative women. And in the meantime, Matt Walsh just calls it out for what it is. And I don't agree with Matt Walsh on everything either. But the big difference here is Ben Shapiro, the video in question that we're going to be talking about today. Ben Shapiro called it out. He called out the feminism in it. Ben Shapiro did. Matt Walsh calls out the feminism in it. I don't know why that's so hard for me to say today. And what does Meg Kelly do? Well, women can do everything. The conservative women do not see it. This is a short clip of the video that I actually watched to get the full clip out of, because I didn't want to take her out of context. I wanted to be fair, and the full clip is even worse than this clip. But Megyn Kelly posts this. She says they can't find a lot of young. She's talking about women today, conservative women. They can't find a lot of young men who want to marry a working woman now. This is an actual problem that's coming up on the right. And to me, it's so sad, because how did we get to the point where we're now telling young, conservative, amazing women that they're not attractive if they also work? Congratulations, you missed the point. You missed the plot completely. We're not saying young conservative can't work. We're not saying young women are not attractive. What we're saying is it always leads to problems. It always leads to problems. Who's leader of the household? Well, we both are. That leads to problems. Have you ever noticed on a battleship or in the presidency or a leader of a country, you ever notice they don't have two leaders? You ever notice they don't have two captains of a ship? They have a pilot and a co-pilot in an airplane. Why don't they just have two pilots? Because one person has to be in charge. One person has to say, okay, we've thought about it, and as a family, we're going to do X. And the women overwhelmingly are, well, that's me then, because I'm not going to listen to a man. I'm not going to do what a man says. So I guess I'm pilot then. And when a man says, no, I don't accept that. I do not want to co-pilot this. I do not want a boss bitch to fight me for control over this plane. You sit there and help me, and you're the co-pilot. Now, real conservative women would say, I'm fine with that. Women can't do that. Conservative women can't do that. They have to say equal, or we'll split the duties equally. And in the upcoming video that they're going to be actually talking about, there's just a clip from it on Matt Walsh's segment. It perfectly shows the problem with this. And because what happens is do you want to have equal amounts of income, or do you want the man to work the extra hours and put in the dangerous work and take the overtime shifts? Well, if he's doing that and you're a YouTuber or a podcaster, and he's bringing in the brunt of the money, you're not equal. You need to take care of the stuff at the house. I'll get into all of this, but this is the clip that sparked everybody off on this tirade.
Here's what's happening on the right. Young women, I talk to young conservative women all the time about their lives and their goals and, the things that they want. And what's happening is they can't find men who are maybe more conservative. Usually they're looking for somebody who is religious, like a lot of conservative women tend to be God-loving conservatives. And they can't find a lot of young men who want to marry a working woman now. And this is an actual problem that's coming up on the right. And to me, it's so sad, because it's like, how did we get to the point where we're now telling young, conservative, amazing women that they're not attractive if they also work, if they choose to, let's say, do what I'm doing and what you're doing, and get their voice out there. But I'll stick with me just because I think conservatives listening to this will like the thought of another Megyn Kelly voice up and coming. Well, why wouldn't we want that? Why would we take somebody who's talented in this field and really wants to make a difference and have the messaging to her be, you're really not that valuable unless you give it up and go into the home and only have a family and only raise a family. And not only are we sending her that message, but young men are actually believing that. They're actually believing it, especially on the right, because the trad mom has gotten so popular. And it's like, no, if we do that, we're not going to have any strong conservative or right-leaning women to provide a role model for younger conservative women who, and there's nothing to apologize for here, don't necessarily want to spend all their 20s and their 30s.
So we want to make a good, strong role model by showing women they're strong and working, that they can have great jobs. Sounds like a dude. That's the argument. Oh, we need to make one of the best role models out there is a strong working woman. Oh, so you're a feminist now. Where this problem all started for the young men of today is they see these women go into college. Because for most women that go into the working world,
getting married.
Stop. If I pause it, don't autoplay it, Twitter. Let me just mute it in case it decides to autoplay again. What men are seeing today is, okay, my father, my great-grandfather, he met a whatever age woman, 18, 19, 20, whatever. She was doing a little, like maybe she was working, but it wasn't like a career, or she was living at home. And then I met her, and I got to meet the parents, and they liked me, and I liked them. And I asked the father for the woman's hand in marriage, and we got marriage. She had a body count of 0. She came under my wing. She took care of the household. She raised my children. She educated my children. She took care of the home. And I went out and did the quote unquote hard work of making the money and putting up with people I didn't want to, and a boss that hated me, and traffic and everything else, to bring home the money to come into my abode, my peaceful sanctuary. And so her job in many ways is important as the guy. Yes, he put the money into the house and put the roof over the head and the car in the driveway and the food on the table. But she prepared the food. She kept the home clean. She let the husband know when there was a problem with the home so that he could either fix it or pay to have it fixed. She wasn't necessarily a subordinate. Her role was different. And here's Megyn Kelly saying we need these young women to go out and be role models in the work world. Here's the problem that young men are seeing with that today. All men are seeing that today. Okay, she goes off to college and she's getting left-wing indoctrination with a feminism, just like she's seeing. They start racking up a body count in many cases. Oh, she's not 18 and getting married, or 19 or 20 and getting married and having children and staying home. She's now 24, going through college, her party phase, her hookup phase, her body count phase. Then she comes out of that and she's in the work world, and she's going out to bars, and she's going out to clubs. She's meeting and sleeping with tons of different dudes. Then, well, I got to keep bringing in my money. Oh, I want this new car, this new purse, this new whatever, this new fancy thing, because 80% of all money spent here in most countries, but here in the United States, is women purchasing things. And they want more things, and they want better things. And now they have to keep working to pay for those better things. And then the 30s come, and then 35 comes, and then where are all the good men? And then why don't any men want me anymore with my high body count, and maybe I'm a single mom now, and maybe I still want to have a career? When a man says, I'll get into the rest of my complaint. I just gotta. Anyway, she goes on here with Anna Kasparian and has her little diatribe, and I pulled some video from this. And then Matt came out, and he's talking about the same video that you'll see in the clip. And the video doesn't matter. It's a woman that's complaining because she apparently does consulting work on how to manage your mental stress of being a part-time influencer and stay-at-home mom. She consults women for, I think, $250 an hour. But in the meantime, she's got a husband that works on power lines, an extremely dangerous job, and he works long hours in all sorts of weather. And she goes viral because all she did is complain that he didn't take out the trash and that he's not doing exactly what she says. And this just went nuclear all over the place. Well, I'm going to play. Now, this is 25 minutes. This is longer than I normally play. And normally I chop and edit things up, but I didn't want to edit things out of context. I want you to hear it straight from the conservative horse's mouth. And then Matt Walsh did a response video to this, and I found myself not editing a lot because he kept talking, and I said, well, that's a good point too. That's a good point too. So we're actually going to play, noticeable segments of their show, and yes, I'm going to speak about it. I'll just let Megyn Kelly explain why conservative women aren't conservative and why conservative men don't want them.
As conservatives or, right-leaning people, to make clear to women that they don't have to, quote, have it all. That, like, if they don't want to work outside of the home and they want to be stay-at-home wives or stay-at-home moms too, like doing it all.
I don't know if I mis-synced my audio on this. Maybe I did when I was editing. I maybe screwed something up. Anyway, don't bother looking at the talking heads. It doesn't really matter. If looking at lips moving and it seems like an Asian dub over film, just don't watch it. But you'll get the point just listening.
Don't want to work outside of the home and they want to be stay-at-home wives or stay-at-home moms too, like doing it all. That's a totally amazing choice. And no one should look down on it. It's the most important job in the world. It's literally the most important job in the world to be a mother and to raise good children. But like so many things, we overcorrect. We do it on the right. The left does it too. And what's happening right now on the right to some extent is it's morphing into, and there's something wrong with somebody who works. And the women who work are less attractive and not good partners. And also, if you choose to work in like your 20s and your 30s and spend a lot of time at the office, you're effing up your whole life. You're not going to meet a man and you're not going to have a kid, even though that's not necessarily true. It's much easier to meet somebody and have a baby in your 20s because you're young and you got your totally golden eggs. But so many women have kids in their 30s. I mean, without fertility help. And we've just sort of gotten to this place on the right where the messaging to me is like, it's making me really uncomfortable. What do you make of it?
Now, before she responds, being a mother is the most amazing job in the world. It is the best job in the world. It's tough. This is, kind of what Megyn Kelly's saying. It's such an important role in society today. Now, we're having a birth rate problem. Why? Women are working. And then, oopsie, I can't have any kids now. Or women are working. Oopsie, I had a couple of hookups and now I'm a single mom. Women are working. I've got a very high body count. And then they get into their 30s and they're like, where are all the good men? Where are all the good men? And the good men are like, this is not what I'm asking for. See, that's the last segment of that women have problems with. Men having an opinion. Men saying, that's not what I'm looking for. Well, I want to have it all. I'm gonna party. I'm going to go to college. I'm going to party it up. I'm going to get a body count. I'm going to sleep with a bunch of dudes. Then I'm going to get into my 30s. And yes, I can still have kids. I didn't freeze any of my eggs. And yes, I have baggage. And yes, I've slept with a bunch of guys. And yes, I've had a lot of bad relationships. And yes, I've been through the indoctrination in college. Where are all the good men? And men say, this is not what I want. Now, does Megyn Kelly say, why do men want this? What is making them desire a woman that's not this? No, she doesn't notice that. She just calls it a problem because men are not accepting what women are doing anymore. That's her complaint. Remember, women, accountability, like Superman and kryptonite, right? They don't go together. So instead of having a moment of reflection and saying, why are young men not wanting working women? Why are young men not wanting women in their 30s to start having a family after they've had the body count and the baggage? Why? She never asked that. She just says, this is a problem. Yes, for you, not for the young men, because the young men are still going to be successful. The young men are going to chase their passions. The young men are going to save their money because they don't spend money like a waterfall like women do. So men will save up their money. Men will be more financially solvent at the end of all of this. So yeah, men are going to be fine. But she doesn't pause. It's just, well, this is a problem for women. Men's choices is a problem for women.
Well, it's always made me uncomfortable, especially because I think the best possible situation is a situation in which women get to decide, right? So if they decide they want to be stay-at-home mothers, I think it's important to have the economic conditions that allow for that to happen. And I have a lot of respect for stay-at-home moms. I agree with you. I think that's literally the most difficult job in the world. And
so if it's the most important and the most difficult, why do women not want to do it?
it's important for kids to have that close relationship with their mother growing up, especially in like the formative years. But I do think that it's possible for mothers to work and still be great mothers. The thing is, a lot of women don't even have that choice. You get what I'm saying? Especially in this current economy with inflation. So I would love to live in a world where I could be a stay-at-home, housewife, but it's just not realistic. We got to pay our bills and we both have to work. But I really do think if we had that economic situation in place, a lot of women would choose to be stay-at-home mothers. And
we know that women, let me boost my mic here a little bit. We know that women could stay home. in many financial situations. Ask yourselves this, guys. Think in your own head. Now, some of you young guys may not be here yet, but for you guys that are like upper 20s, late 30s, right? Do you have an apartment where a woman could live there with you? Like, is there enough room? I think most of us say the answer is yes. Do you have a home? I know of, not my family members, but I know of many situations where mother, father, and the baby were in like a one-room apartment in New York City in the 1950s. Like, you see it in movies and stuff, where the baby's bassinet was in a single-bedroom apartment in New York City. Can you afford to live today on one salary? Yeah, sure. I know. I'm doing it. Many people I know are doing it. Now, bringing in a woman, could you still afford it? Sure. It's a little extra food, maybe a tiny bit more in the utilities, but the guy could still pay the same amount of rent. He could pay pretty much the same amount of utilities. It's a little bit more food. Why can't these women afford? Because they don't want to be with a man that they can't have everything. You can have it all, women. You can have everything your heart desires. Well, that's not true. See, because if you lived with a guy and he paid all the bills, you'd have to keep your spending in check. No more fancy shoes. No more pretty nightgown or evening dresses. No more clothes for the club. No more going out drinking with the girls. No more having that, I don't know, fancy car or whatever. No more iPhone 15 Plus, Ultra, Super, whatever. They'd have to make sacrifices. That's what women are not willing to do. Almost all these women, in many cases, could just not work, but they'd have to make some sacrifices. And they're not used to it. They just aren't, because they've been told you can have it all. And if you don't believe me, look at these working girls out there. And I mean, I don't mean working girls. I mean women that are working. And what are they doing with their money? Are they saving it? Yes, some of them are buying homes. Some of them are investing. But how often are they going on these vacations and posting it on Instagram? How often are they showing off their designer crap to compete with the other women? How much is going into makeup alone on some of these women? They'd have to make sacrifices, and that they won't do.
It should be their choice. I don't think it's anyone's place to judge the decisions that are made by any family, right? It's up to that family to decide what works best for them and whether or not they could afford the setup that they want to pursue.
But here's what's happening on the right. Young women, I talk to young conservative women all the time about their lives and their goals and, the things that they want. And what's happening is they can't find men who are maybe more conservative. Usually they're looking for somebody who is religious, like a lot of conservative women tend to be God-loving conservatives. And they can't find a lot of young men who want to marry a working woman now. This is an actual problem that's coming up on the right. And to me, it's so sad because it's like, how did we get to the point where we're now telling young, conservative, amazing women that they're not attractive if they also work?
Let me ask you a question. Is a short guy attractive? No. I mean, according to modern women. Is an overweight guy attractive? No. Okay. Is a poor man attractive? No. Well, and those things are frowned down upon by women and society. So when a man says, "I don't want a working woman, I want a stay-at-home mom," because if you think of it this way, let's play this down Megyn Kelly's way. Women, you can have it all. You'll have a husband and kids, and you can work your. And then men say, "Okay, who's raising the children?" Well, we are. But yeah, in the evenings before we go to work. Then where do the kids go? Because when they're babies, they go to babysitters or they go to daycare. Then when they're in school, they're in kindergarten and everything else. And look what they're learning in school today. I mean, the reading rates and the math rates are through the floor, especially here in the United States. So I think a lot of guys are saying, I don't want them in the school system. I don't want them being raised by a nanny. I don't want them being raised by a babysitter or a daycare. I want them raised by my family, which is maybe mom and dad, like as in grandparents, you, the wife. And the only reason I'm going out is to pay for everything, or else I'd be here all day too. But that's not good enough. That's not so. Ironically, the men, the church-going religious men, are way more conservative than the women. Because, I mean, if you follow at least Christianity and many of the dictates in the Bible, it's God, the husband, the wife, the children. The man protects the family and provides for the family. God protects and provides for all, then to man, then to wife, then to children. And without getting into the religious components, she's talking about great Christian women. Okay, then those women wouldn't be wanting to be the boss bitch, going out and finding a job and being self-reliant, and the rest of it. She'd be looking for a man, and she would be part of the man's life. So how conservative are we really here? I only bring up the religion portion of it because she just did.
If they choose to, let's say, do what I'm doing and what you're doing and like get their voice out there, but I'll stick with me just because I think conservatives listening to this will like the thought of another Megyn Kelly voice up and coming. Well, why wouldn't we want that? Why would we take somebody who's talented in this field and really wants to make a difference and have the messaging to her be, you're really not that valuable unless you give it up and go into the home and only have a family and only raise a family. And not only are we sending her that message, but young men are actually believing that.
She just literally said, it is the work that I am doing, being on radio and spreading my message, is more important than being a stay-at-home mom. That's what she's saying right now. Yet just less than 2 minutes ago, she said being a stay-at-home mom is one of the most difficult and important jobs. Which is it? Raising your children is the most important job, or being a voice on the radio making probably millions of dollars? Which is it? Because she just contradicted herself in the first 3 minutes of this video.
They're actually believing it, especially on the right, because like the trad mom has gotten so popular. And it's like, no, if we do that, we're not going to have any strong conservative or right-leaning women to provide a role model for younger conservative women who, and there's nothing to apologize for here, don't necessarily want to spend all their 20s and their 30s getting married and having kids, or can't. They just weren't able to meet somebody and definitely don't need to be shamed over it.
Okay, so the young women either aren't having kids or can't because they want to work. Yeah, that's part of the birth problem we're having and the reproductive problem, or the population problem. It's because women are getting into work, they're liking the money, they're liking the jobs, they're liking to be out there, and they don't want to be part of a home until they're in their 30s when it's almost too late. And the conservative guys are saying, you're in your 30s. Where have your best years gone? From 18 to 35, where did those 17 years go? Did you give them to me? Did you give them to a family? Did you give them to children? No, you gave them to a boss and a paycheck and a college and all the people you've slept with and dated and hooked up and met in the bars and everything else. And men are just saying those 17 years are probably the most crucial to me for being a good wife and a good mother to get our family rooted and get going. And that's, guys, what they want. And she's complaining about that. I don't know about you, but if this was a feminist, it sounds an awful lot like feminists speak to me.
Yeah, I mean, look, I totally agree with you. I'm of two minds of this, though, because if you are a young man and you know what you want and you think you have the earning power to literally carry the entire family financially, well, then I guess wait around until you find the right woman for you. But I think most women, not all, but most women, even conservative women, think it's important to have some level of financial independence, right? I mean, you never know if your marriage is going to go perfectly well. Things could fall apart. And if you haven't been in the job market at all for a long time, it's going to be difficult for you to get back in. So look, it really depends on the guy. And if he really has a problem with his wife working, well, then that's on him. And I think he's actually going to have some difficulty finding a partner. But there's so many factors to consider, including the financial difficulty of living in a single income household where you're trying to raise kids. And look, I also think, whether these guys want to believe it or not, when you have a stay-at-home wife, I've seen too many instances of this resentment building because for whatever reason, guys tend to think that, oh, well, she's staying home. She's not out there working as hard as I am. She's just home raising the kids. She has a comfortable life. I'm providing for her. This like resentment starts to build. And I've seen it all over the place. I've seen it in context like my own family. I've seen it, outside of my family. And so I think.
Now, remember, she's a feminist. and she's very left-leaning. So when she says, well, I've seen it in my family, I've seen it in my friends, I've seen it in my community, she's talking about other left-leaning people. But what are they saying? No, hear the buzzword they keep repeating. Finance. What about finances? What about financing? It's very expensive for children and financing and a single apartment and being able to afford money. It all boils down to money. It boils down to creature comfort. It boils down to, what can I buy? Can I make sure that I can leave the man? What if he dumps me? What if he leaves me? I need money. I need security. You see, the security used to be in the home. The security used to come from the man. The security used to come from the family. But it doesn't anymore, because we've had so many decades of money, and freedom. I want freedom and money and freedom. What does that relate to in a woman's mind? Well, if I don't like the situation I'm in with my husband, I want to be able to leave. If I want to be able to afford things if things go wrong. Why do you just assume, why is the instinct that, well, I'm going to get married and I'm going to meet a man and I'm going to have a family, but I need to be prepared in case anything goes wrong? That's the default setting. That's what these women are saying. Now, what's the default setting for men today? I need a prenup. I need to make sure that, that she's not going to take me for a lot. So I need a prenup and I need to be prepared in case things don't work out. The default setting is things are probably not going to work out. That if you don't like what you got, just move on. You go back to my grandparents' day and age, they didn't know anybody that was divorced. Were there a lot of unhappy couples? Probably, yes. Can we find something that's maybe in between both? I think so. But the default now is a woman needs to have an escape vector before she even gets married. That's what both these women are talking about. I need enough money so that if I'm unhappy, I can just leave. And men don't have that option, because even with a prenup, they get screwed. And if you look at the divorce statistics and everything else, it is women. It is women that are bailing all the time. It is women that are filing for divorce most of the time. If the woman's more successful, she files for divorce 90% of the time if she's more successful than a man, 90% if she's more educated. They're basically just admitting the family's the fallback. A husband's a fallback. The kids are the fallback. My work is most important to me, because if my man screws up, I want to be able to leave and I'll find another man. But I got to make sure my career is, because I don't want to lose that money if I have to change jobs, and I'll be able to take the kids with me if I get divorced. That's the fallback position for all these women.
They don't really know what they're asking for here, but I could be wrong. Who knows? And I agree with you. I think that it is important to have strong female voices on both sides of the political aisle. And I think they could really be hurting the conservative movement by essentially, banning women from taking part in conservative media.
Why do you need strong conservative women's voices? Honest question. Why do you need strong women's voices? Why not just strong voices? Notice that even they are, Megyn and Anna, are separating it out by men versus women. Do you know how many women I knew used to listen to Rush Limbaugh? Do you know how many women used to listen to conservative radio? A lot. My mother included amongst them. Now, last I checked, Rush Limbaugh was a dude. You don't need conservative, quote, men, conservative women. You need somebody that's going to speak a message you want to hear. But they're worried that we're not going to have the proper representation of women in these powerful positions. That's feminism. That's feminism 101.
I mean, you're one of the strongest conservative voices, female voices out there. So if you didn't exist, I don't know. I just don't think the conservative message would be as powerful.
Well, thank you for that. I think they'd be fine. But I do think that there's a strain, especially of young women, who appreciate seeing a strong conservative woman who's had a voice in this lane and also had a family. Now,
this is important. I left this in here on purpose. I want you to listen to her, Megyn Kelly, bragging about how she, a conservative woman, has it all. Because we're going to break that down. So listen very carefully to this portion.
I know now you get shamed for saying that you can have it all, but you can. I'm sorry. I'll never say anything different. You can. Yes, there are risks. Yeah. Yes, if what's most important to you is to have children and also ideally to be with them even in your golden years. And sadly, I had mine when I was older, so that clips the time that you'll be old with them and ideally grandchildren in your life, but it just didn't work out for me that way. I met my husband when I was 35. But anyway, so if you really want to have kids when you're very young, yes, you may have to table career opportunities for a while. But in my case, I just feel like it worked out wonderfully. And
now, you heard her say she didn't get married till she's 35. B, you heard her say, I had my children later in life. And C, you heard her say it worked out wonderfully. Keep this in mind.
And all I want people to know is this too is a potential option for you. I do believe if you want it badly enough, you will make it happen. You will make your career happen. You will make your amazing marriage happen. You will make your great kids happen too.
Right. And look, I think that I remember you had put out some tweet and a lot of conservative women were like dogpiling on you. And I think the reason why that happened is because there's always this statement about how women can have it all. And I agree with you. I think women can be mothers. I think they can raise a family and still have a career.
Who's raising the family? That's the question I keep coming back to. Who's raising the family? If you have a career, not a job, a career. Who's raising the family? It's not you. You're not raising the family. Somebody else is. That right there is the contention men have. Men want the woman, the wife, raising the family. Now, why is this changing? Because we're seeing the damage of society, children, the next generation, marriages. We're seeing the damage of what this is doing. And men logically, intelligently say, this isn't working. It's time for a change. And the women keep saying, no, I like it this way because I get what I want, just the way I want it, because I can have it all. So I want this. I'm going to keep pushing for this. And because they're going with their emotions. I want, I feel, I need. And men are saying, that's not how this works. It's not working out. We need to make some changes. That's why the younger men have seen the mess that has come before them, and they're changing their tune. And they're saying, look, we've had red men's content out, red pill content, whatever you want to call it, for 20 years. We see what's happening. It's not working. Time for a change. When did things work? When were families happy? When was divorce not so prevalent? When was society seemingly healthy? When did we not have all the debauchery and the craziness? About 1950, maybe early 1960s or so. What happened then? Men led the household. Men made the money. Women stayed at home. And I'm not saying we have to go back to the 1950s, but when you look at when everybody was at their happiest and when everybody was kind of thriving as a society, that's when it was. And so when men say, can we just maybe go back to the 1980s at least? Can we maybe slow down on this feminism train? These two cackling hens are screaming at the sky about it. At not one point have they said, why? Why are men being like this now?
But that message also needs to be followed up with the reality of how it is challenging and it's incredibly difficult, right? It's not as easy as it is for a man. And that's because of the gender dynamics at play. Women in general tend to be more nurturing. That's the evolutionary advantage that women have. They're the ones who do the nurturing of the family, of the children. And so when you add...
Let me just call her out on that. That is not true. The mother may coddle the children, but who teaches children the work ethic? Who teaches the kids, in many cases, right from wrong, consequence and punishment, rules that need to be followed? That is the father. For her to say, well, women have the brunt of that load, that's more feminism poppycock. Yes, I just said poppycock. It's more feminism BS. Men have an equal but different role. And just because men are not weeping about it on the internet and screaming and crying and throwing fits and recording videos and posting it everywhere, don't even get me started on the stress of a family and the worry. Because my father, I can't tell you how many sleepless nights that in the morning, my dad be getting around and my mom would be making us breakfast. And she'd say, my sister and I used to argue a lot because we were brother and sister. And that's what we did. We just argued about things. And my mom would say, hey, keep it easy on the arguing today. Can we just get along? Your dad didn't sleep well last night. And I remember asking, why? What happened? Is he okay? Is he sick? She said, no, he's just got a lot on his mind. My father lost years of his life probably on worrying about the family. So this trope that, oh, it's the women that care and it's the women that pull the vast majority of the emotional load. Maybe on the surface level. Maybe you don't see dads having mental breakdowns. But I can tell you a lot of guys worry about, how am I going to keep this afloat? How am I going to provide? How am I going to make sure everybody has what they have? My father was one of them. I'm so tired of women saying, we carry everything of the emotional load. No, you don't. You just don't hear men bitching about it constantly.
Had a career on top of that, that becomes very challenging and difficult. And I can see women kind of pushing back because they're probably exhausted. They're probably raising a family while also juggling a career. And I think they just want that validation. They want that acknowledgement of how much more difficult it is to do that. But it is still possible to do that and have it all.
Totally. I agree with everything you just said. And my only point is, like, don't forget that it's also possible to potentially have it all. I mean, I'm living proof of it. And yes, people say you have money. You're right. That's made it a lot easier. How did I get the money? I earned it. I earned every nickel of it myself.
Now, this is key. Again, once again, listen to what she's saying. I earned it, all of it myself. I earned this money.
And how did I do that? I busted my ass when I was in my 20s and 30s and built a name and a career for myself. I'm sorry.
We're going to put a pin in it right there. Let's go to Grok. Grok, tell me about conservative talk show host Megyn Kelly, marriages, divorces, children by which husband, etc. Megyn Kelly, a prominent conservative talk show host, journalist, and political commentator, has had a notable personal life alongside her career. Here's an overview of her marriage, divorce, children. Megyn Kelly married her first husband, Daniel Kendall, an anesthesiologist. Now, I wish I had my money button on here. Oh, I forgot to put my money button on here because I'd be spamming the cash register sound constantly. She married an anesthesiologist. What do they make? 150, 200, 300,000 a year? A doctor. In 2001, 24 years ago, the wedding took place in a Catholic ceremony, religion, reflecting Kelly's lifelong commitment to her Roman Catholic faith. The couple was together for 5 years, having dated for several years prior to their marriage. However, their relationship ended in divorce in 2006. It lasted 5 years. Kendall has stated the pressures of their demanding careers, Kelly's work in corporate law and part-time news, combined with his long hours and medical training, contributed to the dissolution of their marriage. They had no children. In 2024, Kelly revealed she was undergoing Catholic annulment process for this marriage, a step she pursued to align with her faith. So she got married in 2001. They were together 5 years. He was a professional doctor, money. She was getting her career off the ground. How was she able to get her career off the ground? Because he made a lot of money. And they both ended up becoming professionals and working a lot. So much so, she decided, I need to chase my career, and they got a divorce. Even though she's Catholic and did it in the church because of her religion. 5 years she left. Remember, you can have it all, she said. But you couldn't have it all because you didn't have it all. Now, I'm guessing, depending on her success of her career, she might have left that with cash and prizes. What did the first husband get out of his relationship with Megyn Kelly? Nothing. He didn't get a family. He didn't get a home. He didn't really get a wife because she was working all the time. He didn't get the kids. Probably what he lost is half his income. Now, her second marriage, 2 years after her divorce. So she gets divorced, and then she married her second husband in 2008. So from day of divorce until day of next marriage, 2 years. Was she, now, I'm just asking. I'm not saying she did this. Did she already have an eye on the next man before she left her first husband? I don't know. But, statistically, probably. Now, what about her second husband? Well, his name's Douglas Burnt, a former CEO of cybersecurity firm Authentium, and now a New York Times best-selling author and podcast host. He met Kelly on a blind date in 2006. Put those numbers together. She divorces husband number one, a successful doctor, because they don't have enough time together and she wants to get her career motivated. She went on a blind date with him the same year she got divorced, 2006. Was she upset? Was she torn up over her first marriage? Was she torn up over her divorce, even though she was devout, Catholic, and religious? Nope. The same year of her divorce, she went on a blind date with another guy, a CEO of a cybersecurity company and an author. She took zero time of reflection and she met up with a different guy. And after about 14 months of dating, they got engaged, they got married, and they got married in 2008. So literally the moment she left the first guy behind, she goes out on a blind date, dates the next dude for 2 years, she's married again. Who did that work out for? Did it work out for Megyn? Yep, sure did. She got to marry a doctor and a CEO of a cybersecurity company. Did it work out for the doctor? Not so much. He got left in the dust. Anyway, they say the couples maintained strong relationship, often speaking publicly about their mutual support and open communication. They reside in Connecticut, blah, blah, blah. Now, here's the kick in the pants. Megyn Kelly and Douglas Burnt have 3 children, all conceived through in vitro fertilization. Remember what she said about, you don't have to have your kids young. You can wait. You can have it all. You can have your children later in your 30s. She had IV to have her kids. Edward Yates, Yardley Evans Burnt, and Thatcher Bray. Kelly's been open about her use of IVF to build a family. Why did she need IVF? Because she had her career so long that if she kept going, she wouldn't have her kids. Now, about her personal life, Kelly's personal life has occasionally intersected with her public persona. She's alluded to experiencing betrayal, although she clarified it was not with Burnt, leading to speculation about her first marriage. And this is what I asked next. How old was Megyn Kelly when she had her children? She had her first kid at 39 years old, her second kid at 41 years old, her third kid at 43 years old. Do you understand why she needed in vitro fertilization? She needed IVF because she was 39, 41, 43. But you can say, Joker, she still got it all. She got the career. She was able to grow off the ground and still became a mother. Yes, because of IVF. And you say, well, more women can do that. Do you know how much IVF costs? Okay, yes, I know. Go lay down. IVF, it says here, costs between $12,000 and $25,000 per cycle. With the medications and to successfully achieve pregnancy, pushing the cumulative cost closer to $40,000 to $50,000 on average each time. Each time. So if a working woman waits until she's in her late 30s and or 40s, you're talking about for her to have 3 kids would have cost at a minimum $45,000 and at a maximum $150,000. Do you understand why they're saying a lot of people can't afford marriage? Yes, because when your marriage includes up to $150,000 in costs to have a kid, where back in my parents' day and age, or even in my day and age, around 19 and 20 years old, the most it cost you for maybe making a kid was a 6-pack of Genesee cream ale and a ticket to the movies. You'd probably end up with a kid for about $12.50. Because the young guys that were dating the girls in high school and getting out of high school, mostly blue collar guys, they were oopsie doopsie. I got a family and I'm 21 and I got to figure this out. And they got married and they had children and they had a small little home until maybe he got a better career or whatever. And I know a few of them that are still married. A lot of those kids now are in their 20s. The only reason she was able to have it all is because of her doctor husband and her CEO husband. But if you're marrying, I don't know, Joe the plumber, if you're marrying the tax specialist that went to college and you're wanting to have your boss be career, you're not going to be able to afford kids. And how do I have proof of this? How do I have proof of this? Look at the population decline. Look at the birth rates being dropped off in all these countries where the feminists want it all. Yeah, Megyn, you got it all. You also had a doctor and you also had a CEO to help you. So don't say, oh, I got here by busting my ass. I'm sure you did. Maybe you did work really hard, but don't tell me you didn't have financial backing while you got your career off the ground. You launched your successful career off two men that were working really hard to provide for you, and the first one you left in the dust.
Right, but I find it very disempowering to just tell all these women, you're really going to have to choose. Look, the reality is if what's your number one thing is to have kids, having them earlier is better because fertility issues would or could kick in later in your 30s. Sometimes women don't meet people early enough. I've had so many young girls say to me, my viewers will email me and say, I would love to have gotten married before now. I didn't meet anybody. So I just feel like.
Why didn't you meet anybody? Why did a young woman not meet anybody? Either A, their standards are too high, and so they're looking for Chad Chattington, Tyrone Thunderstroke, the top 10 percenters, 15 percenters. Those women are saying, I couldn't find anybody because their standards are too high. I know this because there are millions and millions, tens of millions of men just here in the States alone, hundreds of millions of men worldwide that would love to meet a young conservative woman in her early 20s and make an honest woman out of her and marry and have a family and everything else. How do I know? Because I read the chat, because I look online. It's all over the place. So these young women that couldn't find anybody, that's not the fault of a man. That's a fault of too selective of a woman. Or she's not that conservative, much like Megyn Kelly.
I feel like conservative men need to stop shaming them because so many of them are trying.
I could stop this every 3 seconds. Let me let her play. And then I'll put my bitch at the end.
I just feel like conservative men need to stop shaming them because so many of them are trying and just aren't able to. But I will say this. The tweet that I sent out about you can make your own fortune. You can get your own swanky New York City apartment and also find somebody who wants to be with you on Valentine's Day and have children with you and stay with you was in response to Ashley St. Clair, the Elon alleged baby mama. That was about her because that to me is not an okay choice.
I want to talk about a certain mom.
Okay, so let me just speak to the last part of this. Men are not shaming women. Men are not shaming women. Men are telling you their preference. If a woman says, I want a guy that's 6 foot tall, men say, well, she's shaming short men. Women's answer is, I'm not shaming short men. It's just a preference. I want a muscular, rich man. Well, they're shaming poor fat dudes. No, I just have a preference of what I'm attracted to, say the women. And I can't help what I'm attracted to. Okay. In that vein, men are saying, I don't want boss B women that have gotten turned out through college, that have been through the indoctrination of feminism and the rest of it in college, come out with a worthless degree, $150,000 in debt, and expect to be the co-boss of a family. I don't want that. I don't want a problematic, argumentative, I don't want a power struggle in my marriage. What do I want? I want a slim-ish, Some of you guys like the girls a little something, something. I get it. I want a slimish, healthy, respectable, young, pretty, kind woman that respects me and loves me and sleeps with me a lot and would be a good mom with my kids and stay at home. How dare you? You're shaming us. No, I'm not shaming you. That is my preference. That is men's preference. And so her view of this whole situation is the same as feminists. It's from the left. It's from a men are shaming women. Men are not respecting women. No. It's a preference. And if you do not like that preference, you have two options. Deal with it or complain. And neither one really affects men. Men are going to be just fine. Men are going to be fine. We're going to have more money. There's a reason why the joke is that if you want to sleep with a woman often, don't get married. Just hire one. Because if you marry one, it's going to cost you a whole lot more than just hiring a woman to sleep with her. And in many cases, that's true. Right? So why is that becoming more popular? Because women are headaches. A lot of these women are headaches. They want to control. They want things their way or the highway. And when a man says, well, it's my preference of X, women call it shaming. Women call it controlling. Women call it manipulation. And the guys, it's just, no. This is just our opinion. This is just our preference. And if you don't like it, you can shove off. Before I read the second part of this, let me read through the live tips to make sure they don't go disappear on me. Call Me Leon on Fire says, Plato's Republic 6, or Plato's Republic 6. Not everyone can be captain of the same ship. If the passengers try to play captains, everything goes to shit. One captain's enough, ideally one whose sole skill is not popularity. Agreed. Purge Thunder says they still think they can have it all. Nope. No, the only reason Megyn Kelly got it all is because she fell into a crap ton of money by a doctor and a CEO husband. But the first doctor husband, he lost 5 years and he got divorced. And like a week later, she's going out on a blind date with her next soon-to-be husband. Dredd says they're missing the point. Men don't want to get married in general because of the laws. Agreed. But also, men don't want to get married to what we're being given options. Like, we don't like the options. Call Me on Fire says, hot take, there's no such thing as a conservative woman, period. A woman who pretends to be conservative only does so because she thinks it'll benefit her. Definitely not because she believes or cares about conservative. There are a couple of, I've met and know a couple of conservative, like real conservative women. They've also been married for 20 years and have a family and are at home. That's what happened to the real conservative women I know. Daifichu says, $10. Hey, thanks, buddy. This really isn't surprising. I've seen a woman from Central America do the same exact thing, same exact BS as women from the Hong Kong who did the same exact BS as women from 2 hours north of Toronto. They're all wired the same. Don't be fooled by these so-called conservative women. Well, they think they're conservative because they have a couple of conservative views here and there. But the truth is they've been fed 20, 25, 30 years of feminism, and it has now seeped into their soul. And Matt, the reason why I play most of Matt's video, I play probably more of it than he'd appreciate because he'd say I'm just stealing his content, is because he calls it out exactly right. And I will give Matt credit where credit is due. I don't agree with Matt on a lot of things, but Matt, a very conservative man, does spot the problems with it. And we're going to play that next year. Call Me on Fire also says, quote, Nicholas Rockefeller, feminism is our invention for two reasons. Previously, only half the population paid taxes. Furthermore, this destroyed the family, giving us power over children. They're under our control through the media and fed our message. They're no longer under the influence of the nuclear family. By turning women against men and destroying partnerships, we have created a broken society of egoists who work to consume this, thus become our slaves, and then even think it's good. Yeah. And I've talked about that in other videos, so I won't go down that road. Shadowcaster says $3. Thank you, sir. Megyn Kelly is all about survivorship bias. I made it, so can you. For every Megyn Kelly, there's 1,000 of boss women. Yep. But she also made it because she had very successful husbands that funded her lavish lifestyle more than likely until she got off the ground. God and Cigars says $4. Thank you. Institutions like Christianity and conservatism wish they were as immune to modernity as women are immune to accountability. Yeah, but the problem with that is now, if you look at it, they're even starting to let female pastors and preachers into churches, and they're spreading feminism now in church as well. So, you know, conservatism and religion have a feminism problem. It is leaching into everything. P. Perella, I think that is $50, became a subscriber over on locals.com. Thank you for joining me. Don't forget, for those of you on Rumble, hit the join button down below. And for those of you on YouTube, suck it. Screw YouTube. By getting over to betterbachelor.locals.com or Odd Man Out on Rumble. Kryptonian Jedi says, thank you, $7. Hey, for $7, you can call me whatever you want. Geralda says, and I know you're being facetious and kind in the same time. Here's money. I hate you, but also I like you. Here's money. Thank you. Geralda says, I don't think passport bros say their exotic dates are fundamentally different. They're just cheaper. Well, cheaper, and you might be okay if you stay over there. Okay, moving on to the next portion. Now, this is Matt's response. We're just about an hour in. I got to make that mental note, because when I go edit this, I'm going to have to edit out your comment, or else YouTube will not let me publish this video per usual. All right. Here's Megyn Kelly's, here's Matt Walsh's response.
Not an okay choice.
I want to talk about a certain mom influencer who's gone extremely viral with videos recently where she dispenses truly awful advice to women. And I think this woman is worth discussing because she is but one tentacle on a giant and hideous squid. Women, in particular young married mothers, are getting a lot of very bad advice from our culture, and often they're getting it from these kinds of influencers. Not nearly enough is said about what we might call the woman's sphere. These are the feminist boss babe influencers like Paige Connell, and the very real harm that they're doing to women and those women's husbands and children by extension.
And the reason why I want to bring this up, yes, he's calling out some of these viral posts on the internet. But he's also in a roundabout way, not that maybe he's not thinking of this, but in a roundabout way, he's calling out the Tomi Lawrence's and Megyn Kelly's as well, because they're pouring their crap, their poison out to quote unquote conservatives as well, and messing them up just as much. Because if you're a young woman listening to Megyn Kelly, that's not conservatism. It's not. It's feminism under a conservative guise.
Now, the mental load, as I mentioned, is a constant theme in Paige's work. She's convinced that women carry a disproportionate allotment of the mental burdens of supporting and caring for a family. She's made dozens of videos about it, one after another, all with the same message, which is that women carry basically the whole mental load of marriage and family life. Men carry almost none of it. And this is a total fiction. But it's a fiction that is apparently very appealing to a large number of women.
I'm going to pause here again. I'll pause a lot. Just go to Matt Walsh's channel if you want to see the whole video uninterrupted. But I have to pause on the segments that you notice he just called out what Megyn Kelly said. Again, he's not calling out Megyn Kelly, but he said the emotional burden that women carry is 100% of the load in a marriage. And he said that's fiction. Of course it's fiction. But the Megyn Kellys and the Anna Kasparians and the other influencers out there saying, oh, women have to carry the emotional toll of a relationship and a marriage and a family. No, they don't. And I know because Matt has said many times about when he did another video on this. And he said, we just don't talk about it. We just don't put it on video. We don't do TikTok videos. We don't complain to our wives. We suffer in silence over our worries so that we don't worry our wives and our loved ones. Men oftentimes will carry the burden right here in our heads, but we care as much, if not more, than women do about the health and the direction of the family. And for some reason, women have taken this narrative and just run with it like they're the only ones. Matt sees it for what it is. I'll give him that much.
So let's now play the latest video from Paige, which has gone astronomically viral on X. It has over 100 million views, well over 100,000 likes. Tens of thousands of women are cheering and shouting amen to this video. And it is a 5-minute rant where Paige tears her husband down, complains about him, belittles him, and reveals that she even considered divorcing him. And she offers all of this to the public for some reason. Listen.
I've been with my husband for almost 20 years, but about 3 years ago, I was strongly considering divorce, and I want to talk to you about why. So I'm going to tell you the story of the day where I thought to myself, maybe I don't want to do this anymore. My husband and I had 4 kids. We both worked full time. We had been together for 16 years at this point. We've been together since high school. And on paper, I have an amazing husband. He is incredibly supportive. He's kind. He's loyal. He's a great dad. He's very hands-on. He's an active participant. He's always present. Like on paper, what else could I ask for? But in reality, my experience is very similar to the experience of other women. I had this amazing husband who on paper was great, but I was incredibly frustrated and burnt out from our marriage and from motherhood. Because what happens to so many of us is that we marry these amazing men and we have amazing relationships and then we have kids. And when we have kids, women tend to carry a disproportionate amount of the work in the home, the work of raising kids, and the mental load. And that is exactly what happened to us. About 3 months after my 4th baby was born, I remember looking at my husband and saying, I need more. I need you to do more. I am exhausted. I am in charge of everyone and everything in this house. Every night when we cook dinner, you ask me what to make. Every day when you drop off the kids at daycare, you ask me what they need in their backpacks. I am the project manager of this home and I need you to do more. And he looked at me and he said, okay, just tell me what to do. Right?
I want to pause here for a second. And now Matt will talk about this as well. I have an amazing husband. He is a great father. He provided us this beautiful home. He makes sure we're all taken care of. When I ask him, or excuse me, when he goes to cook dinner, he asks me what I want for dinner. So the burden is on her to decide what he is going to actually cook. So not only did he go off to work all day long, and again, Matt will repeat some of this, but this is kind of what I saw this video before I saw Matt's. So not only does this guy go off and work very hard during the day, when he comes home, he cooks dinner to take stress off of her. And she's upset that he asks her what she'd like for dinner. That's emotional overload. And then when he takes the time out of his day to drive the kids to school, the actual hard thing, she's upset that he asks what the kids need in their backpack. Do you understand? So, honey, what would you like for dinner before I cook it for the family? Oh, the mental anguish. Why do you make me suffer? Spaghetti. Okay, I'll make spaghetti. Oh, God, that was so hard on me. I had to think of the word spaghetti and what I was in the mood for, but he's going to cook it for me anyway. Are you going to drive the kids off to school? Yeah, do they have their lunch in their backpack? Oh my God. How dare you? How dare you?
How dare you?
How dare you ask me if the kids have everything they need before you drive round trip to drop the children off at school? I'm going to divorce you.
Right? Every woman has heard this. Just tell me what to do and I'll do it. And I said, okay, something that would make my life easier is if in the mornings when I came downstairs with the 4 kids, because I do mornings by myself, the dishwasher was emptied, the dishes were put away, and the trash was taken out. That would make my life so much easier.
Okay, now by the way, just a note there. You notice how she says that that he asks her what to make for dinner. Well, we learned in the other video that this man makes dinner for the family every night. She said it herself. When he comes home from his very demanding job, which we'll get to in a moment, he's the one making the dinner for everyone. All he does is ask her what she wants, and so somehow in her mind she has the greater burden when it comes to dinner because she only has to say, "Here's what I'd like." She spends 10 seconds saying what she wants. He spends an hour making it, but the burden is on her.
The other thing I wanted to mention too is you heard her say, she says, I come down with the kids. I come down in the morning with the kids. And I need you, let me rewind it. This is why I stop it so often because I forget exactly what she said.
Make my life easier is if in the mornings when I came, I need you to do more. And he looked at me and
she says, I need you to do more. And he looked at her and said, what do you need me to do? Okay. So he's not fighting. He's not arguing. He's not being a jerk. She says, I need you to do more. And he says, okay, what do you need me to do?
He said, okay, just tell me what to do. Right? Every woman has heard this. Just tell me what to do and I'll do it. And I said, okay, something that would make my life easier is if in the mornings when I came downstairs with the 4 kids, because I do mornings by myself, the dishwasher was emptied, the dishes were put away, and the trash was taken out. That would make my life so much easier.
So he's cooking dinner. Now, he works a full-time job. Then he cooks dinner. Then he takes the kids to school, and she wants the dishes done, and she wants the trash to be taken out, and she doesn't do his laundry. She only does hers and the kids' laundry. What is she doing? What is she doing other than bitching on the internet and calling him out publicly? Serious question. What is she doing?
That he asks her what to make for dinner. Well, we learned in the other video that this man makes dinner for the family every night. She said it herself. When he comes home from his very demanding...
Sorry to replay this. It's just easier to...
The one making the dinner for everyone, all he does is ask her what she wants. And so somehow in her mind, she has the greater burden when it comes to dinner because she only has to say, here's what I'd like. She spends 10 seconds saying what she wants. He spends an hour making it, but the burden is on her somehow in her mind. So we've learned so far that her husband is amazing. He's loyal, supportive, attentive. And yet she still considered blowing up her family and upending her children's lives because she was frustrated that he wasn't doing chores the way she wanted. Now, why would that thought even enter her mind? How in the world could the dissolution of your marriage ever even be considered as a solution for household chores?
Simple, because she has an escape plan. It's not very difficult. That if she didn't have a job, if she didn't have her own career, which is laughable, it's not really a career. It's selling how to be a wife videos for $250 a pop. Seriously. She when things just aren't going her way, she has an escape plan. She has the money and the resources because she works, because she makes her own income, and because things are exactly the way she wants them, she wants to leave. Matt says a lot of what I would normally say, so I'll just let it play. But
well, she goes on to explain it all came to a head one morning when she walked into the kitchen, only to discover that her instructions had not been followed. That was the precise moment when she considered throwing her marriage vows straight into the garbage.
And there was this one morning where I woke up and I went to put something in the trash and it was overflowing. And I went to get my son's water bottle and it was in the dishwasher with all the other clean dishes. And I felt so disrespected and unseen and unvalued at that point in time. And I remember texting my husband being like, what happened? Like, why didn't you do this? And he said, sorry, I was running late for work. And I remember thinking, oh my God, he doesn't see me, because what he's done has now made me late for work. And he doesn't care about that. He doesn't care about the impact on me. And he doesn't see how every single thing in our home happens because I asked him to do it, or because I do it myself, or because I planned and organized it. The diaper bag is full because I filled it, right? I put the wipes in there. And I felt so frustrated. And I remember thinking, what's the point? What's the point of doing this with someone else? I might as well just do it alone.
Now, the happy ending to this story is that she decided not to divorce her husband because he started doing what she wanted him to do without being told. And as she puts it, a woman's love language is not having to ask. So she expects everything to be done exactly as she wants, exactly when she wants, and she expects that all that to happen without having to say it out loud. If it doesn't happen, she will seriously entertain ending her marriage. And somehow she sees herself as the good guy in this scenario. Even worse, thousands of women seem to agree, even though approximately 100% of those women would be furious if their husbands ever came up to them and said, honey, I expect you to do what I want without being told.
That's the rub right there. That's the how far ingrained, right? That's how far ingrained feminism has gotten, to where a woman thinks, look, like, okay, she came down and she felt disrespected and felt like, why do I even bother this? Because A, he didn't take out the trash. Spoiler alert, it can sit there until you get home from work. And the clean dishes. So she said, will you help me do the dirty dishes? And he said, okay, fine. Then she bitches the clean dishes were still in the dishwasher. So she didn't like the fact that there were dirty dishes and she didn't want to do them. He needed to do them. So he did the dirty dishes, got them clean, but they weren't dry enough when I guess maybe he left for work or went to bed. So he left them in the dishwasher to dry, and she couldn't find the bottle. Helter skelter. Oh no, I couldn't find the baby's bottle because it was clean sitting in the dishwasher. Do you understand what a spoiled, narcissistic brat she sounds like? And he was running late to work. And then she says, oh, you've left the burden on me. Well, the trash isn't a burden. It can sit there till you're done with work. And the baby's bottle, here's the burden. Baby's bottle isn't in the cupboard. I wonder if it's still in the dishwasher. Oh, there it is. What was that? 6 seconds of burden to find the baby bottle? And she's furious she had to ask. And this is why I say, this is why it's so ingrained that feminism is, because as Matt rightly calls out here, if the husband said to her, here are my expectations, I need you to do more. And if you don't, you're a failure as a wife, and I would consider divorcing you. That would be headline, front news story, misogynist, threatens to leave marriage over just a dirty baby bottle. That would be the mainline story. It is so ingrained in everything that women feel they can get away with talking to men like this and disrespecting a husband, a working man, to the point of it's how do you fix this? And then you bring it up, and you're the bad guy. This is the hidden hate against men that runs a river through all things, that you can picture a woman saying, look, you're not pulling your weight around here. Here's what I need you to do so that I don't feel stressed out around the house. So my expectations are this. I can picture a woman saying that. But if you picture a man saying it, look, here's I'm stressed out when I come home from work. Here's my expectations. I expect to walk in this door. I expect the dinner to be cooked. I expect the dishes to be cleaned off the table. And I expect at least an hour of quiet time to enjoy my pipe and my whiskey as I unwind from work. They'd call him a misogynist for that. But if a woman says, when I get home from work, I expect the dishes done, I expect the trash to be taken out, and I expect you to do something with the kids so I can unwind for an hour after my day, well, of course, why not? Why shouldn't you? I mean, she's worked hard, right? You can see how that narrative has been spun through all of the threads of society.
Okay, a man who said that publicly about his wife would be denounced as an abuser by the very same women cheering Paige Connell. The glaring double standard in this video, and in literally every video this woman makes, is just one problem. There are many others. Let's start with the fact, again, that she is criticizing her husband publicly. The first rule of marriage is that you do not attack, criticize, or tear down your spouse publicly. Much less do you use your spouse's supposed flaws as clickbait on the internet. Paige, though, has made an entire brand out of doing exactly that. But again, we can bet that if her husband ever made one single video where he spent even 1 minute offering the slightest critique of his wife, she would lose her mind. And we all know that. She desperately wants to feel seen, but I'm guessing she doesn't want to be seen like that. Now, Paige insists that she is the exclusive carrier of the mental load. All that tells us is that she is a raging narcissist who has never stopped to even consider what kind of mental and emotional burdens her husband might be shouldering.
Now, I'm going to pause in this for a second. If you go back and look at Megyn Kelly and her interview with Anna Kasparian said women carry the vast majority, almost all of the emotional load of a family and a household. And Megyn Kelly said, yep, that's exactly right. Yep, women, wives, moms, we carry the vast majority of the emotional load. Matt, if you take what he's saying about this woman that he's reviewing and discussing right now, if you were to pluck that woman out and put in Megyn Kelly, he'd be talking about Megyn Kelly and Anna Kasparian too. He'd say, those women don't understand. Men have their concerns. We just don't whinge about it on the internet. And you could easily swap them out. That's why when we go back, and there's more to play on this, but when we go back and I say conservative women are just feminists, is because Matt, in essence, is calling not only this one woman whose video he's doing, he's also calling out Megyn Kelly and Anna Kasparian, not that Anna Kasparian's conservative, but he's calling out those other women because they all agree with each other. So he's calling all of them out, including the thousands of women that like and comment on this stuff. And he's right. These women just assume that men don't have emotion and that men don't care and that men don't carry these burdens because we're not whinging about it on the internet. And if we did, we'd be called weak and emotional and effeminate, and it would be unattractive to women. If a man sat and came in from a day's worth of work, sat down in a living room chair, surrounded by his children and his wife, and he just burst out into tears saying, I can't do this anymore. I'm overwhelmed. I'm overloaded. I'm emotionally burnt out. I can't sleep at night. This is driving me crazy. Honey, what are we going to do? And he looked up to his wife for guidance. Dry as the Sahara Desert. She would be so dry for that guy. She would be so unattracted. And she'd also start getting scared and worried and nervous because he's supposed to be the rock, the pillar that holds up the family. And when men have that breakdown, now what happens when a woman has that breakdown? Any of you guys that have been married, had girlfriends, been in a relationship, what's it like when a woman has an emotional breakdown? We call it Tuesday. That's what it's like. Women have breakdowns over stress at work because they can't find the right thing and they're running late, because somebody at the grocery store yelled at them, because somebody cut them off in traffic. Do you know how many times I've dated a woman and wants to vent? What do you want to vent about? This person cut me off in traffic, or this crazy driver, or this rude person at the store, or my boss, or this, or this. And as a man, I think to myself, I do not run into that many crazy drivers. I don't run into that many rude people. And I've been in a situation where the person, the girl I was dating, was like, can you believe that crazy person? And I was like, who? What do you mean? The guy next to the milk that was saying to I'm like, that didn't even come up on my radar. And so it's not that more crazy things happen to women. It's not that worse things happen to women. It's just for men, it's like, that was a nothing burger. That didn't even register. I've been driving and somebody, yes, has cut me off or moved without a turn signal and gotten in front of me. And in my head, I was like, geez, easy, buddy. I might have even said out loud, like, what a jerk. And then I get home, never thinking. 5 minutes later on the highway, not even thinking about it. But women will take that one driver that cut them off during traffic and they fume about it the rest of the way home. And then when they walk in the door, you'll be like, oh, it's such a bad day. Why? What happened? This with the boss and Becky at work and this during lunch and this and this and this. And then this guy almost ran me off the road on the way home. In the meantime, for the guy, it didn't register. And so women can and will vent about everything. Men just in, one out, in, processed, dump. We're a garbage heap. All this stuff comes in that's noise. We just throw it out. We just throw it off to the side. I don't have time for that. I got bigger things on my mind. And so Megyn and Anna and this other woman that did this video, they're just, we carry everything. Men not only carry all of that, but they also carry the women and they carry the children and they carry everything, and they either process it, work it, how am I going to, and fix it, or they dump it. That's what men do. Women can't do that. And this guy the guy in the video that this woman's talking about, the husband, the amazing husband that's wonderful and awesome, this guy is now working full-time, doing the dishes, cooking, taking the trash out, taking the kids to school, doing his own laundry, everything else, just to try to keep peace in the house. And she's still angry. This is why men do not want to marry women that have careers, that are boss women, because it's not fair. Not only do the men end up doing more, but they end up getting blamed for any of the problems. And because of this underlying feminism and everything, everybody agrees. Well, it couldn't have been her. It must have been the guy.
And we talked about this during a segment last week. We often hear about emotional labor in a marriage, which means basically the same thing as the mental load. And these terms are always used by and about women. The assumption is that men have no mental load, that they have no emotional labor. And the reason why some women, like Paige, have come to that conclusion is that, along with being raging narcissists who are fundamentally incapable of showing the slightest empathy for the men they married, they're also confused. They confuse their husband's lack of complaints with a lack of things to complain about. The fact that he's not saying his complaints out loud is taken to mean that he has no complaints in his head. But their husbands don't go around whining about their mental and emotional troubles because they're trying to spare their wives from having to share in their burdens. Also because they assume, rightly, that their wives will hold it against them and resent them if they open up. Here's what we know. If Paige's husband were to actually talk about his mental load with Paige, she's the kind of woman who would flip it around and make it immediately about herself. Because suddenly, his sharing of his mental load has only contributed to her mental load. Next thing you know, she's filming another TikTok video bashing him while he's at work.
How many times have you guys, and this is something that happens in many of my previous relationships, and I'm sure it has with you as well, where women will often be critical of us. You don't text often enough. You don't call me enough. Why do you always make me clean this up? You didn't do this. You didn't do that. You didn't do this. You didn't do that. We're used to it as men. I mean, it's, it's something that comes with the territory, right? Or a woman gets a flat tire and you say, okay, I'll be there. I'll fix it. And then you go there and fix it, right? You go out of your way to make the women in your life happy. But also they like to complain a lot. They just do. When a woman is bored, you are her entertainment director. If she comes to you and say, I'm bored, let's do something. And you say, I'm busy, or I'm doing something I enjoy. She gets mad at you. You're her entertainment director. You're her, she comes to you to emotionally dump everything else. But here's the thing that happens many, many times. And many of you guys will relate to this if you've been in a relationship. When you turn towards a woman and say, do you know what I would like? You know what would make me feel better? Do you know what I would really appreciate if you did for me? X. Now, depending on what it is, some women might say, oh, I can do that for you. But if it's something that is maybe fundamental about a woman, I'll give you a good example. If a man says to a woman, you know what I would really appreciate? You know what would make me feel better and more attracted to you? I would like you to lose a little bit of weight. That's it. Now, of all things considered, losing weight can be very difficult or very easy depending on who you are. But if a woman came to a guy and said, do you know what makes me more attracted to you? If you do the dishes, if you take out the trash without me asking, if you do these little things around the household so I don't have to stress and worry. As a man, we don't say, oh yeah, well, you don't do whatever. As a guy, we say, her attracted to me more. Ooh, more sex, more romance. I'll help. I'll do that. Sure. If it'll make you less, because that's why the husband in this example is doing more and more and more of the housework. He wants to relieve her of stress because men can sleep with a woman whether they're stressed. I mean, the house could be on fire, and if Sydney Sweeney came to half of you guys and said, "If bend me over this desk, I think we've got 3 minutes." And we could fool around for 3 minutes before the roof caves in on her head. I think a lot of you guys would be like, okay, let's try to get it done in under 2 minutes. And then you'd have your fun, and then you'd escape the building, because that's how men think about the bedroom. Where women are like, I need to be relaxed. I can't be thinking about other things. And I think that's a manipulation tactic, part of it, to get men to do more for them. But also some women just, because their mind's on other stuff and they're stressed, they're not in the mood. But when a guy says to a woman, hey, you know what would put me in the mood? I'd love it if you cooked me a home-cooked meal. If you cooked for me once in a while, that'd be great. Or do you know what I'd really appreciate? Is if I just came home to a house that was cleaned, like you clean the house once in a while. Or if you put some concerted effort into losing a few pounds. I'm not saying, because then the argument starts and you have to go, I'm not saying I'm not attracted to you now. I'm not saying that I don't. It's always an argument. It's always a discussion. It's always whatever. But when a woman asks a man of something, there's usually no discussion. There's usually no argument. The guy's just like, yeah, okay. I love you. I care about you. I'll try to help out more. But if you try that with a woman, it's going to be an argument. It's going to be a hard time. It just is. So the truth of it is we all know that relationships are exceptionally unbalanced in many ways. Unfortunately, it's not unbalanced in the same ways women think it is.
So he says nothing. And his wife considers that as evidence that his mind is free of all troubles, but that is certainly not the case. So what then might Paige's husband's mental load consist of? Well, for one thing, he works full-time to support his family. Even in our enlightened age, in the majority of families, men are still the primary or sole breadwinners in the majority of cases. Now, I know you might object and say that, well, Paige has a full-time job. That's true, but listen to her on a podcast recently describe her job. And this is really important, okay? Why she still has it, even after having kids. Listen.
The reason I feel like I have to often justify it, right? I shouldn't have to do that, but I do. I justify it. And the reason that I personally remain in the workforce is first and foremost because I wanted to. I want to have a job. I want to have purpose outside of my kids. My parents were divorced when I was young, and I always saw the value in my mom being able to support herself and have that financial security. That's really important to me, not even just for divorce, but God forbid something happens to my partner. He works an incredibly dangerous job. Like, I want to know that I could take care of my family if I wanted to. It gives me purpose, right? It gets me motivated. More than that, if we were solely talking financial reasons, what I've said is oftentimes people leave the work for a short period of time, or people tell them to, like, just leave for 5 years, you can go back. And for me, the short-term cost savings didn't outweigh the long-term opportunity for my career, for my income growth, for my retirement fund, for my benefits, right? All of these things that I want to do in 10 years require me to stay in the workforce now.
Now, Matt's going to mention this, but I want to say this beforehand so I can let his rant go. My retirement, my finances, my money, my career aspirations, and my safety net, me, all the way down. It's all a bunch of me's. But here's the important one, she said. A, he works a dangerous job. B, I'm in the work world because it's something more for me. It's something I'm passionate about. So she's risking her family's cohesiveness. She's risking or talking about divorcing and leaving her husband. And her job is kind of, well, I want to do it. And it's a little extra money. And me. But in the meantime, a guy's working a dangerous job and, through her own words, is providing everything they need financially. And instead of saying, you know what, I'm not able to dedicate enough time to my family, and so I'm going to put my work on the back burner for a little while. Instead, she tells her husband to do more and more and more and more, and threatens divorce because the trash wasn't taken out and a baby bottle was in a dishwasher, instead of making the step back from her BS part-time internet gig. I. You notice when she was talking about why she has a job, she never once mentioned her kids. So why does Paige work? Well, she works first and foremost, you heard her say it, because she wants to, because she enjoys it, because it gives her purpose. Okay, fine. But, and this is important to understand, the mental load of your job is significantly decreased if you're doing it essentially for fun. On the other hand, if you asked Paige's husband why he works, he would likely give the same answer that almost any husband and father would give. Go up to any man, ask him why he has a job. Okay, I guarantee you he's not going to say, well, first and foremost, I work because it gives me purpose. No, he will say that he works because he needs to provide for his family. He works because he has to. Paige works because she wants to. The pressure and burden of providing for the family still falls primarily on him, even if her income is equal or almost equal or even greater than his, because she could quit her job if she wanted to. He cannot. He's the backstop. He's the cornerstone. He works because he must. And this is how it goes in the majority of families. Not every, but the majority. The man works so that his family survives. The woman works, if she works at all, because she wants to. The woman works for lifestyle. The man works for livelihood. The mental burden is not the same, not even close. I would go so far as to argue the mental burden is almost exclusively on him. I mean, think about this guy, right? He's trying to do what he can for his wife, for the family. He's got a job. He can't just call off. He works hard and cooks and does the dishes and takes out the trash. And I'm sure she has him helping clean around the house. And he probably maintains the cars and the household as far as repairs. And I think he pulls up the video. In another video, she says, I don't do any of his laundry. I don't make medical appointments for him or anything else. This woman is literally leeching off this guy. And the icing on the cake is then she makes her money by podcasting about how awful he is. If the roles were reversed, it would be mainstream news how awful he is. But what's sad is not only is she awful, but a lot of women are as well. And the minute a man says anything about it, women just say, well, you should do that. You're a man. Men are supposed to provide and help and protect and take care of. It's your job. But when a man points out, well, it's your job to raise children and educate them and be the mother at home to take care of them, not going off and getting a job and paying somebody else $25 an hour to take care of the children, well, then he's the jerk. Then he's the bad guy. It's always such a broken down two-tiered system where women can do whatever, but a man should provide because he's made that way, because it makes him happy to provide. So he should just do it. It's literally insanity at this point.
It's like comparing a woman walking a tightrope 5 feet off the ground to a man walking 500 feet off the ground with no safety net and his wife and kids balancing on his shoulders. If she falls, it's an inconvenience. If he falls, they die. Now, speaking of which, you may have noticed that Paige mentioned her husband's dangerous job. She says it kind of as an aside. Oh, yeah, he works a dangerous job. Anyway, what is his job? I want you to listen to this clip from the same podcast. It's the last clip of this woman that I'll play, I promise. But this short 45-second snippet is too perfect to not share because the whole problem with this woman and every woman like her is contained in this one moment. Listen very carefully to this.
Okay, Paige, my squirrel brain really won't let it go. What dangerous job does your husband do?
Oh, yeah, he's a lineman, which when I say that people will think football, which is not football, it's an electrical lineman, essentially. Yeah. So he climbs utility poles and fixes electricity and
it could get electrocuted any day.
Free, that's what your brother-in-law does, right?
No.
Or he does something similar to that? No. But it's something like, no. Okay.
Not really.
Fine.
Totally off there, Joanne. Totally off there.
Yeah, it's just a lot of electricity, which is dangerous,
Yeah.
right? And they work like a ton of storms and works a lot of crazy unexpected hours. It's just a dangerous job. But
it's crazy.
But
it's crazy. But let's get into, so you put the video out saying that you chose to stay in the workforce, take the temporary hit and cost, and you got a lot of quote unquote reaction. What was some of the pushback to that argument? Because to me, it makes total sense.
Matt's going to have his response here. I'm just going to give mine quickly beforehand. And I've seen this video, so you're going to say, well, you said the same thing he did. Right, because I agree with him with most of everything he's saying. Here you've got a guy that works crazy hours, working with high-power electrical. He goes out after storms. He goes out in storms. He goes out, and I won't say he's risking his life every time, but he is working with high-power electricity. That's not exactly the safest job in the world. And she just kind of brushes it off. And then she's like, but anyway, here's about me and my podcast. No appreciation. And he works overtime and he works random hours. And she does her little podcast thing. Look, I do YouTube video. Do you know when I could be recording this video? 9 a.m., 11 a.m., 2 p.m., 5 p.m. What time is it now? 7:54 p.m. So whose life is easier? A guy that has a crazy job with all kinds of hours that he must go respond to power outages and storms and in dangerous weather, or me who sits at my desk and can do my work roughly between the hours of good morning and good night. I get so she should be the one that shifts things around. And she acts like, oh, I'm on this tight, and now I'm late to work. How are you late to podcasting? I mean, if you have a designated time, sure. But how many streamers do you know are 5 or 10 or 15 minutes late? I know lots of them. Unbelievable.
Oh, man. This poor guy. He's out climbing utility poles, putting his life on the line every day, this incredibly demanding job, while his wife is at home complaining about him on TikTok. And then he comes home and makes dinner for the family every night. And his wife still isn't happy. I mean, incredible. Her husband is a utility lineman. That's one of the most dangerous jobs on the planet. And in the middle of Paige whining about all of her mental loads, she briefly acknowledges that point and then pivots right back into whining about people being mean to her on Instagram or whatever. Hey, Paige, do you think that maybe there might be some mental loads involved in doing a job with a fatality rate 400% higher than the national average? You think the possibility of dying on the job might weigh a bit on your husband's mind? You think the mental load that he carries because he might die on the job might even be just a bit higher than the load you carry because you have to write a grocery list? You think? Maybe? He is literally risking his life every day to provide for his family. But you insist that the mental burden is carried exclusively by you because you spend more time worried about the dishes than he does. Your husband left in the morning to go do a job that might kill him. Then you woke up and the only thing you could think about was the fact that he didn't unload the dishwasher. You complain about feeling unseen because some household chore wasn't completed. Meanwhile, you apparently don't see your husband at all. I mean, I've never met the guy, and I have a greater appreciation for the sacrifices he makes and the struggles he faces than you do.
How would you feel doing a dangerous job, working out in inclement weather? And this is why so many men say the juice isn't worth the squeeze anymore. Let's build two scenarios. Scenario number one, your wife is a stay-at-home mom. She also educates the kids. You know, she's their teacher. She's the educator. And she's talking about changing diapers so they're not even old enough to be in school yet. You kiss your wife goodbye. You get in your utility truck and go out and risk your life and work and do dangerous work. Then in the meantime, what does she do? She makes sure the kids are fed. Maybe she bathes them. She puts them in their clothes. They go play. They go do something. She cleans up around the house. She may not take the trash all the way out to the curb, but she ties it up and sets it in the garage or whatever. She does the dishes while watching the children play and listening to her favorite YouTuber or Rumble person, whatever, or podcast. She cleans up around the house a little bit. Then she sits and plays and educates with the kids and does some other things. Then she gets up and prepares dinner, cooks dinner, has it ready for you when you're expected home. You come home from work, dinner's ready, the kids are clean and they've done their education, and now it's time to sit around and have dinner and read them their story, put them to bed, read the nighttime stories. How relaxed is your wife? I'd say she's probably pretty relaxed. How relaxed are you? I'd probably say you're pretty relaxed. You know, you can talk to her about the day and you each find each other. She's relaxed. She's in a more romantic mood. You're had a stressful day and you want to pound it out on her, if you know what I'm saying. And then life goes on. That's what most men agreed upon when doing the dangerous work, when doing these risks, to provide for a family, to provide for the ones that they love. Now, let's put yourself in this guy's shoes. You wake up in the morning, she's yelling at you about the trash. She's yelling at you about the baby bottle and the dishes. She's yelling that you're running late. She's yelling that you didn't get the kids' food in the backpack and everything right. You drive the kids off to school, then you go off to work. Now you work, dangerous job, you come back, you walk in the door. You say, what do you want for dinner tonight? She yells at you because of the mental burden. Why do you have to make me worry about it? Why don't you? So you cook dinner, you're cooking dinner, you get everybody served. I'm sure she has another complaint about something about her day. Now you go back over and you do the dishes and clean them up. You put them in the dishwasher. You take the trash out. You help put the kids to bed. You come back down and make sure to put the clean dishes away. There's a certain point where you have to say, as a man, that's hell. That's hell. And then you know he knows what she does for a living. And I'm sure he's going to pull up, maybe he listens to what she does at work. I know if I dated somebody and if I dated a woman and she did YouTube content or whatever, I'd be listening to it. I'd say like, I wonder what she put on today. And can you imagine listening to your wife bitch to thousands of other women about you and then realize she's selling courses on how to work on a marriage because of you. And then you read thousands of comments calling you a pig and a jerk and uncaring. And imagine that life. What is the two differences between those two scenarios? Her, 100% her, and her choices, and what she does for a living, and that she's working, and that she's prioritizing work and her popularity and her narcissism with her online stuff versus loving her husband and children the most. I'm going to play a little bit more of this, but I want you to keep this in mind so that when we talk about why Megyn Kelly is sitting here saying, why are young men refusing to marry and date women that are working women? Because we see how this turns out, not just with divorce laws, not just with the courts, not with just child custody. We've seen how men are treated both at home and in society. We see the lack of appreciation for men. We see the shaming tactics. When we say what we want, it's negative. When women say what they want, well, that's just their preferences. Men see this over and over and over, and then it spreads like wildfire. And young men today say, you know what? I could have that lineman job, and I could have a girlfriend, or I could just be hooking up with some chicks, or I could hire somebody. I can hire a maid. I can hire a cook. If I'm really successful, I can hire a maid. I can have ready to eat frozen meals or like dinner in a box type stuff sent to me. Frozen steaks. I belong to a steak company where they just send me lots of steak. I throw it in a pan for 5 minutes, and then I crack a beer and go watch a football game and maybe jump online with some friends. And then when I have that urge, I'll go hire a professional once or twice a month. And in the long run, not only is it cheaper financially, it's cheaper for your sanity. And I've never been one to cheer on the hiring of people to help you with your needs. But if you're a guy that's a successful guy, I'll tell you right now, hiring a woman to come in once a week or once every other week to clean, vacuum, and mop, buying a $200 robot or $300 robot vacuum to take care of the floor most of the time, eating off of, plates that you can either dispose of or take care of yourself. Like, there is a point where guys say, I used to get so much more out of this. There's just not enough for me. And I'm not even going to work the dangerous job. I'm going to make half the amount of money. And instead of working a dangerous job, I'll work a job where I work with a bunch of guys that I like. Maybe instead of working, on a power line, maybe I install, electrical wiring in a home, and I just do inspections. I make half the money, but I'm safe, and I'm. This is what men are doing. So, and all Megyn can do when she cries about this is, oh, these men don't know it. What are they doing? They're shaming us. They're just shaming us. They do not get it.
Paige's problem, aside from being monstrously self-absorbed, is that it's the same problem that, thanks to feminism, plagues so many marriages. She insists that everything has to be equal, even though equality in a marriage is impossible. Yes, women, it's true, often end up taking on a disproportionate amount of the domestic responsibilities. That's not oppression. Okay, that is millennia of biological hardwiring. A woman's mind tends to be more focused on needs inside the home, which is why a woman might tend to be, like, the fact that there's dishes to do, a man can do the dishes, but he's not going to be troubled by that fact to the extent that a woman will be, which is not an insult to women. It's just women are more focused on that.
Not younger and or modern women, I can say that much, most of them. Raise your hand if almost every woman you've ever dated or lived with or been married with was messier than you. I can't stand dirty dishes. I can't stand stinky trash. I can't stand when somebody, eats something and then leaves a mug somewhere. This is my coffee mug. Ironically, it says locals on here. This is my coffee mug. This sits on my desk. Those of you that watch me on movie nights and you watch my streams, I drink coffee out of this. I drink rum out of this. I drink Coke out of this. I drink everything out of this. That's what it looks like on the interior. That's it right there. Not a drop of crap on it. Every woman I've ever dated is messier than I am. So I don't even give Matt this excuse. I disagree. I think a lot of guys like things that are clean and tidy and neat because we're used to being single. We're used to being single, and we don't like things being smelly. If you look on half of these YouTube, or not half of these YouTube, half of these TikTok and half of these Instagram streamers, these women that are doing, I don't know, you know what kind of only content they're doing. Their place is a wreck, an absolute mess.
A man's mind is more focused on what needs to be accomplished outside the home for the sake of the family. Here's the point. Neither the husband or the wife are wrong in their focus. In fact, it's good they focus on different things. They got all the bases covered. That's the way it's supposed to work. They're different. But women like Paige are forever frustrated and doomed to misery because they just cannot accept that their husband is different. They cannot accept that they married a man and not a woman. But this inequality cuts both ways. There are things that the wife will bring to the table in unequal measure. There are also things that the husband brings to the table in unequal measure. Most obviously, as we discussed, in the vast majority of cases, the husband is the financial bedrock of the family. He's the sole breadwinner, the primary breadwinner, or even in cases where he's neither sole nor primary, still very often the necessary breadwinner.
A statistic and a number to remember, and this is an important one. 90% of marriages, 90% of divorces. No, that's wrong. 90% of women, I'm trying to think of the right way to phrase this to make sure I'm being statistically correct. 90% of women that make more than their husbands or are higher educated than their husbands file for divorce. 9 out of 10 women that are more successful than the man leave. So that by default puts all the financial stress on the man. That means his money must lead the family, must be superior, must be carrying the way. And it doesn't mean they're in a financial position to where they don't need her money. But I'll tell you this now, if they do need her money and her money is the primary source of income, 90% of the time she divorces and leaves. So that kind of stress and that kind of balance means really in reality, she needs to carry 90% of the household work. It's just how it is.
The wife can have a job or not. The husband must have a job regardless. But it's not just that. The husband also provides many other things, including a sense of security and safety. Now, it's unlikely that he'll ever have to fight off armed intruders, but even so, his wife and children look to him to feel secure. The wife, in turn, provides precisely no sense of security and safety for her husband. The wife feels safer with the husband there and around. The husband does not feel safer with the wife around because he's the sole source of security. The road only goes one way in the family. Everybody looks to him to feel safer, more secure. He looks to nobody. There's no one. He looks over to his right, and he's the last. He's it. He's the guy. That's not a bad thing. As a husband, I have absolutely no bitterness about the fact that I carry the pressure of providing for my family and making them feel safe and secure. I am honored that I can do that for my family. I take joy in the inequalities, in the things that I can do without receiving an equal measure in return. And that is the only way to have a happy and lasting marriage. You have to accept that your spouse is not the same as you. They do not think the same way. They don't focus on the same things. They don't have all the same anxieties. They have different anxieties in many cases. You married another person, not a carbon copy of yourself. And that fact can either be a source of joy or it can be a source of envy and resentment. That depends entirely on how you choose to look at the situation.
What's important to remember is that today, what's a good way I want to put this? Today, women have been told that they can be men. I mean, literally. I mean, ironically, yes, some women literally think they are men now. But more than that, women with feminism and women's empowerment, they don't want to they don't want to just be better than men, which they think they are in many cases. They want to say they are men in that, well, I can make as much money and I can be just as smart and I can buy my own house and I can do this and I can do all the things that men can. But in reality, they can't. And oftentimes you see that when these women start swinging on a dude and he decides to throw a right cross and put them to sleep in one throw. Women today have gotten in their minds that not only they can be as good as men, but really they're just replacing them, that they can replace us and do all the things that we do, but also better, and we don't need no man. And ironically, that doesn't, I mean, yes, it hurts men's prospects for dating. It hurts men's choices for marriage. It hurts men's ability to have a family. But other than that, it doesn't really hurt men. I don't know about you. I know I'm going to have to work at least until 65, probably even older than that. I know many of you that are younger, because Social Security will be gone by the time I get of age to take it. So I'll probably be, living off my investments, but I'll probably also work. Many of you younger guys know I'll probably be working right up until the day my first foot's in the grave. That's the society we're in. We know this. And if you're 19, you know it. If you're 40, you know it. If you're 65, if you didn't make the right choices when you were younger, you know it. You know what women don't know? The Megyn Kellys of the world and the rest of them, they don't know that they're married and they have choices and they married doctors and ex-CEOs, so they have probably pretty good bailout plans. But the average young woman today going through college and growing up as a feminist and growing up and I can do it and I can have it all and I can do all the things like Anna Kasparian and Megyn Kelly were saying here. I can do all the things. What they don't know is, because if you ask me, can you do all the things? No, I cannot do all the things. I know I can't. But these women that think they can, they're going to do all the things. They're going to have the college career, and they're going to have the body count and the partying and the boyfriends and the fun, and then they get up into their 30s. And what Megyn and was actually complaining about is men not wanting young women that are workaholics or working or career women. And Megyn's just complaining about it. She doesn't have a fix. It's because there is no fix. Young men today are saying, no, I've made my choice. I'm not going to go through what the guy in the video that Matt was explaining, this guy, the story that Matt was saying about this. Guys are saying, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to be put in that position. I'm going to want a woman that is going to stay at home and take care of my children and take care of the home, or I'll be single. And men are willing to make that choice because they've seen the results of what happens when you choose wrong, or she just decides, I'm going to be a career lady. You're either working really hard and doing 3/4 of everything around the house and still getting complained about, or she leaves and takes half of everything, or who knows what, or the divorce courts take it, or, child custody courts take it, or you never get to that point because you find out she cheats on you. There's just a point where men say, something, from a young age, I'm going to set my expectations and I'm going to stick to those expectations, because everybody I've seen that sways from, that moves too far away from what you want and makes too many sacrifices, I see those guys get punished over and over and over again. And so now guys say, okay, you want a career? I'm out. You sleep around a little bit too much? I'm out. You kind of mouthy and get attitude? I'm out. Because each one of those, they say, I see what this looks like in 10 or 15 years. I know where this is going. I know how this turns out. And it's not good for me. So I'm going to have my radar cranked up to 12 for warning signs. And if I have the littlest inkling of problems, that's why I'm out. And that's why guys are bailing. And that's why guys are saying, look, do you want to be a stay-at-home mom? Do You want to be a stay-at-home wife and raise my kids at home and be a female educator and teach our kids, female educator, I mean, mom educator, mom teacher, teach our kids, stay at home, I'll make the money. No, I want a career. I'm out. I'm out. Because you're going to end up banging some guy at work, or you're going to want a late night out with the girls, or you're going to whatever. It's not worth it. And Matt calls it out, and in other videos, he talks about solutions, where all Megyn did is complain. All she did is complain. Some of the responses right off the top, Rich Cooper, no man wants a covert feminist that's boss girl with promiscuous past. Jesus may forgive her, but these conservatives won't. Sovereign Bra says, Sovereign Bra says, right-wing men don't want feminist career women. It's unnatural. It's destroyed the family. It's destroyed your first marriage. Not interested. He calls her out on her first marriage, ironically. Elijah Schaefer, feminists aren't very attractive in 2025. Young men know that there's a high chance of divorce. Why do you want a woman working with other men and under another man or woman's authority? Young men are now conservative, pro-white, pro-national, and pro-faith. The right has changed. Not the Bee says men want to be needed for providing. Working women don't provide them one of their most primal and honest desires. It's pretty simple to understand. Yeah, I work as a man. I provide for a family. I put up with a woman's crying and all the emotional stuff because of A, sex, B, companionship, C, children, and D, a good family and good life. When you are taking away all those options, guys are like, nope, not interested. Let's see, is there any other big responses? Isabella Moody says, Megyn, do you think it makes sense for a man to marry a woman who submits and who serves a corporate boss and not him? Doesn't it make sense for a man to seek a wife who prioritizes being a homemaker and raising his offspring? And there was another post here that somebody quoted where, wait, is this the same one? No. Megyn Kelly says here on this one, ladies, it's possible to make your own money. Well, yeah, but you got a leg up by marrying and divorcing a doctor. Have your own career. Again, you got helped by a dude. Pay for your own swanky New York City apartment and find a man who loves you, wants to have and raise your kids with you, and wants to be with you and only you. The only thing stopping you, your decision to settle for less. Megyn Kelly said that. That's Feminism 101. She said that in February 17th. George says, competent men do not want to deal with the type of women and everything you stated before the word and. The kind of man a woman who makes her own money has a swanky New York City apartment wouldn't want her back. Okay, that's kind of weird. Kind of weirdly said. Anyway, his point was, A, no, you can't have it all. And B, a guy that says you can have your swanky apartment and you can have your own career and you can do this and do that. That's not the type of woman that's not the type of man these women want. Basically, they want a piggy bank. They want a piggy bank. That's all it is. Anyway, enough on that. So that's the numbers I have for today. That is what I've got. Megyn Kelly, Anna Kasparian obviously is not a conservative, but feminism runs through the veins of most women today. Most, even conservative women. You're going to get some pushback. So if you think somehow you're miraculously going to avoid it by getting a church-going conservative woman, it's not going to happen. Their duty is not to man and family first. It is to their own narcissistic needs. It is to their own bailout fund, their own career. They do not have any trust in men or the family, and so they are not going to sacrifice anything to get it. They're going to work, get their money, and the marriage is just a part-time option. It used to be full-time family, part-time job. Now it is full-time job, part-time family. Don't think you're going to find it out there in the world. That's for sure. Let me read the last of the chats before we bail here. Call me Leon on Fire says, what do you want for dinner? Oh, the misogyny. If you have misogyny button, press it right now, please. I don't, but I have this one.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I don't think so, sir.
I don't Can you imagine being that guy and doing all that just to get roasted online for your wife's career? Fireplug says, Joker, don't sweat it. We love hearing Walker play with a squeaky toy. Now, it's not that he just squeaks. He also like starts snorting and moving and rolling around and banging my table. And if you bang the table, you hear that popping I get on the mic. That's why I don't like him rolling around the table here. Dirk T. Sanchez, what's the over-under on how many SSRIs she's on? I don't think Megyn Kelly is. I don't think either one of these women are, because they have money. They're successful and they have money. The ones that go real crazy are the ones that don't have anything. Call Me Leon says, free Luigi. Seriously, why are we putting that guy in trial? He should get a statue. That's an interesting argument, but we're not going to have that here. But that's an interesting argument. Geraldus says, in recent news, some scientists brought back dire wolves from extinction. I saw that. With some clever DNA hacking, could they bring back traditional women back too? No. No. Because you're not going to fix that with DNA. It's a social problem, not a DNA problem. But yeah, I saw the dire wolves back, 2 little white pups, and they were very cute. Wise Guy says $5. I had one stress breakdown after I held things down and was the perfect boyfriend for 2 years, and she wouldn't stop needling at me 1 a.m. and she lost all respect for me and dumped me 3 weeks later. I'll never trust a woman again. Yeah, if you gotta get let loose. You can have anger, frustration, and humor, but the crying, sadness, you can't do that in front of women. You just can't. Ispep says, $10. Hey, thanks, buddy. Walsh's video today during the cancellation session, he addresses Megyn Kelly during that back and forth with Anna. Oh, did he? I missed that. Oh, damn it. I wish I had gotten that video first. I'll look through it. I'll watch Matt Walsh after I do this. I haven't had time. I'll watch Matt, and then maybe I'll have an addendum to this. I'm not even going to edit this. I'm just going to slap on the lead intro, lead out, and throw it up on YouTube. I'm so tired of it. Cobalt says, $1. Question for Joker, might be personal, so you don't have to answer. Okay. From A Cake. No. He says, when you were married and had to work 12 to 14-hour shifts for the job you had, did the wife still force you to be the entertainment director and make you do all the work like cooking, cleaning, taking out the garbage? Yes. Yep. Happened to me. I was working a full-time job, a part-time job. She worked a full-time job, and I was the cook because she couldn't cook. And then she'd leave the dishes in the sink till they started smelling. So I became the dishwasher. And then she couldn't lift the garbage bag out of the can. So and after a while, I'm relating to this woman and her story and her BS very firsthand. AK says one of Joker's phrases, all the things. Yes, all the things. Sinatra says, Kelly says, who will be these women's role models if people like her aren't in the home? Yet the mom's in the home. She forgets it was women like her that have led the downfall of America. Women should look up to their mothers. Yeah, you want a good role model? It's not Megyn Kelly. It's the mom that's not on the internet all day posting selfies on TikTok. It's the mom that's taking care of her children, teaching them well, loving her husband, taking care of a good home that we never hear boo from because they're not on the internet. Those are the women we should celebrate. Dirk T. Sanchez, not Kelly, Paige. The bitch is insane. Oh, who? Megyn Page? Megyn Kelly? What? Huh? Who? All right. I'm tired. I have not eaten dinner yet. I'm tired of all of you. Tired of hanging out with you. Okay, I'm going to wrap this up. I thank you guys very much for being here. Thank you for being a Rumble premium member because that takes care of Rumble. Rumble's taking care of us. I appreciate it. I'm trying to put so much more out on both Locals and Rumble. I'm trying to leave YouTube behind. I'm tired of YouTube taking advantage of us content creators because, the community. And look, I care about you guys that watch me on YouTube. I want you to watch my content. But to say I'm a voice that is needed in the world anymore is wrong. There's lots of voices doing this kind of content. I'm not the only one. So if I slowly work my way off YouTube, I don't feel that YouTubers will be missing me. And if they desperately need to hear my voice, go over to Rumble and Odd Man Out, or come to And it doesn't mean I'm not going to keep throwing stuff up to YouTube, but if it gets demonetized, I'm deleting it. I'm not showing my demonetized work on YouTube anymore. I refuse to. I'm not letting them show ads and keep money for it and then giving us content creators nothing. I'm not doing that anymore. If it gets zapped, taking it down. I'm tired of it. But Geekman says $5. Thanks for the stream. You're welcome. All right, guys. After this, I'm going to feed the dog. I'm going to let him out. I'm going to eat. And then I'm probably going to stream a game. And I'm going to stream it on Rumble and Locals. Just because I'm going to be playing a game anyway. So we might as well have a hangout room and some place to hang out. That's it. Peace.